Welcome to Aprendamos Español, our second lesson in the advanced course. In this lesson, we're going to talk about when to use the subjunctive. Now, this is a topic that confuses a lot of native English speakers when trying to learn the Spanish language because basically English doesn't really have a subjunctive. And what gets a lot of people confused is they think that subjunctive is a verb tense. They think there's past, present, and future, and then there's subjunctive. But in reality, the subjunctive is not a verb tense. You have the regular past tense, present tense, and future tense in Spanish that you've already learned, but then you have the subjunctive present tense, past tense, future tense, and so on and so forth. And so you have your regular verb tenses and then your subjunctive verb tenses. So do not be confused in thinking that the subjunctive is just a verb tense. You have past, present, and future in the subjunctive, just like you have your regular past, present, and future. So in this video, we're going to talk about the general idea of just what the subjunctive is trying to convey. Then we're going to go over the rules of just when you use subjunctive, what kinds of situations come up where you have to use it, and then the exceptions to the rule. And then finally, I'm going to go over some practice questions with you, helping you be able to identify when you should use the regular verb tenses and when you should use the subjunctive. So, as I stated before, one of the biggest challenges to learning the subjunctive is that English doesn't really use it. And let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. In these two statements, he is happy and I hope he is happy, in English you use the exact same form of the verb regardless of what type of statement you're making. However, these are two different kinds of statements. In the statement he is happy, you're expressing a known fact, something that you know to be true. However, in the statement, I hope he is happy, you're expressing an expectation, something you want to be true, but you don't necessarily know if it's true or not. In Spanish, you would use the regular verb tenses to make the statement he is happy, but you would use the subjunctive verb tense to say I hope he is happy. Because in Spanish, when you're expressing a known fact, just use the regular conjugation of the verb, the regular past tense, present tense, or future tense, whatever tense it is. But when you're expressing an expectation, then you have to use the subjunctive form of the verb. Moving down here, in English, you use the exact same form of the verb to make these two statements. When you say, I believe he is happy, versus I doubt he is happy. Notice how you're still using the exact same form of the verb. You're still saying is, or you're saying is over here. These are not expressing the same thought. Over here, when you say, I believe he is happy, you're talking about something you believe is a fact. But over here, when you say you doubt he is happy, you're expressing something that you doubt is a fact, or you're expressing something you're uncertain about. In general, in Spanish, when you're talking about something that is a known fact or a believed fact, use the indicative. And don't get confused about indicative. Indicative just means the regular form of the verb tense, whether it's present, present progressive, preterite, imperfect, future tense, does not matter. Indicative just means the regular old form of that verb that you learned in Spanish too. Whereas over here, when you're expressing something you expect to happen or something you're not certain if it's happening or not, you use the subjunctive. So that's just a general overview of the difference between the indicative and the subjunctive. Or we could even use another statement. If you say, she wears shoes, you're stating a fact. Or if you say, I think she wears shoes, you're stating something you believe is a fact. But once you move over into the realm of uncertainty or disbelief, where you say, I doubt she wears shoes, or I hope she wears shoes, where you neither know it's a fact nor do you believe it's a fact, that is when you will use the subjunctive. And so I reiterate that, and it's very important to just get the general idea down. The indicative, or the regular verbs, are for known facts and believed facts, but the subjunctive is used when you're trying to express an expectation and an uncertainty. Now, there are different types of ideas that you express that can convey expectation or uncertainty, and Spanish gives us rules for how to use the subjunctive in each of those situations as well. In general, when you're using the subjunctive to talk about uncertainty or expectation, there are basically 4 areas of conversation that you're talking about. You're either talking about something you desire, something you doubt is true, or you're giving someone else advice, or you're making plans. In these 4 areas of conversation, you will use the subjunctive to express the verb that is uncertain or that you expect to happen. Now, at this point, most Spanish teachers will just tell you, use the weirdo acronym for wishes, emotional expressions, and so on and so forth. But the problem with using the weirdo acronym is that the weirdo acronym does not cover every single situation where you would use the subjunctive in Spanish. I think it is a lot smarter to just learn the rules of when to use the subjunctive. And once you learn those rules, you will be able to recognize when you need the subjunctive versus when you can just use the regular form of the verb. You don't have to bother with this extra step of memorizing an acronym. Just remember that the 4 areas of conversation are desire, doubt, advice, and plans. And I'm going to flesh this out one by one. Let's start with desire. In general, in Spanish, the verb expressing the desire is a fact. You really do have that desire. And so for the verb that is expressing the desire, use the indicative, or just the regular old form of the verb tense that you learned in Spanish too. But when you talk about the verb that is fulfilling that desire, that is in the realm of expectation. So for that, you would use the subjunctive. And let's go over several examples here so I can really just flesh that out and tell you what I mean. In this statement, I want a house that has red floors. You have got 2 verbs in this sentence. You have the verb want and you have the verb has. Now, these 2 verbs are not being expressed in the same way. When you say you want a house, it's a fact. It is a fact that you want that house. Your desire is real. So that's why the verb that's expressing your desire is taken as fact, and you use the indicative. You say, quiero una casa. Okay? Quiero una casa. Like I said, when you're expressing fact, use the indicative, which is the regular form of the verb that you already learned in Spanish too. Now, I want a house. That part of the sentence alone is expressing a desire, and your desire is very real. But now we move into the realm of expectation. The word for that is que. I want a house that has red floors. You must ask yourself this question. Does the house already have red floors, or do I expect it to have red floors? If you expect the house to have red floors, but you don't actually own that house right now, it's just something you're basically fantasizing about, use the subjunctive. So you would not say, quiero una casa que tiene pisos rojos. You would say, quiero una casa que, then the subjunctive form of tener, que tenga pisos rojos. Okay? So, like I said before, the verb want is expressing your desire. Your desire is real. That's why you just use the regular old form of the verb. But the verb that fulfills your desire, that house having those red floors, that's an expectation because you don't know for sure if you're going to get that house. So it's in the realm of uncertainty and expectation. How about this one? He prefers that she sing. Now this one is actually very interesting because, again, we have 2 verbs, prefers and sings. Now, his preference, that is a verb that is expressing desire. When you say I want or I prefer or I desire, or I hope for, or I wish that. All those verbs that are expressing a want, your want is actually happening right now. You are actually experiencing a desire. So for he prefers, it's just prefiere. Okay? Pretty straightforward. Nothing confusing there. He prefers that. Prefiere que. Now we get into the realm of expectation. Ask yourself, is she actually singing right now, or does he just want her to sing? If he wants her to sing, but she's not actually doing it right now, that's an expectation. And that's why we use the subjunctive for the expectation verb in the sentence. So you would take the verb cantar and you would just swap out the A for an E, and it would just be cante. Okay? He prefers that she sing, prefiere que cante. And if you want to be more specific because it's she, you could say ella cante. But that is just two simple examples. The verb that expresses the desire is in the realm of fact because your desire is actually happening right now. But the verb fulfilling the desire is in the realm of expectation because your expectation is not actually happening right now. Now let's look at some more examples. She insists that I write it. She insists that I write it. Now, do we have a verb here that is expressing a desire? Absolutely. Insist. But that's just when you really desire something to happen. But do we have a verb that would fulfill that desire? Yes, we do, right here. If I write it, then I would be fulfilling the desire that she's expressing over here. So the verb that expresses the desire is in the indicative. Meanwhile, the verb that fulfills the desire is in the subjunctive. And so it would just be ella insiste en que lo escriba. Okay? Because this is just a regular conjugation of insistir. And then escriba is the subjunctive form of escribir, okay? And so this is just one example of figures of speech in Spanish that you sort of just have to make sure you learn. In Spanish, you don't say, I insist that you do something, or she insists that I do something. You say, she insists in that I do something. You say, insist in that. You don't just say, insist that. So remember, don't leave the N out. It's extremely important when you're using the verb insistir. But you get the point. Insistir is the verb that's expressing desire, and this is the verb that would fulfill that desire, and so that's why you use the subjunctive there. How about this one? This one's pretty straightforward. It has the verb desire in it. And then what verb is used to fulfill that desire? The verb come. They desire that we don't come. So it's one group of people that want another group of people to do or not do something. And that's why you use the subjunctive. So the verb expressing desire is going to be your regular old verb because your desire is actually happening right now. But we haven't come or refused to come yet. So this is in the realm of expectation. They expect us not to come. So they expect us to act this verb out. So this one is just pretty straightforward. You use the verb desear, it would just be desean que, and don't forget your que, because that's how you say that when you're making a statement of desire. Desean que no. Now we have to take the verb to come in Spanish, which is venir, and just put it in the subjunctive we form. Desean que no vengamos. And if you're curious how I'm getting these subjunctive conjugations, that is for another video. How about this one? We hope that y'all are happy. And I noticed that y'all is a regional term. They only really say it in the South. But it's a contraction of you and all. It means you all, or you guys, or you people. We hope that y'all are happy. So do we have a verb that is expressing desire here? Yes, we do. The verb hope. We hope that y'all are happy. Now, what is the verb for that would fulfill that desire? Right here. Are happy. So how do you say we hope? It's just the regular indicative form. Esperamos. That is que. Esperamos que. And now we have to conjugate the verb are in the subjunctive form. And so it would just be esperamos que ustedes estén. This is the subjunctive form of estar. Esperamos que ustedes estén felices. Okay? Felices is plural for feliz, and it means happy. We hope that y'all are happy. This verb expresses the desire, so it's just a regular old verb because my desire is happening right now, but I don't know if they are happy yet. So the verb that is expressing the uncertainty, I just put it in the subjunctive. Now how about this one? Is there anyone that can help me? Do I have a verb that's expressing desire here? Yes, I do. Is, because I'm actually looking for someone. So my desire to find someone is real. So the verb in the part of the sentence that expresses desire is indicative. How about the verb that would fulfill the desire? Right here, can help. Now this is actually two verbs, and you only conjugate the first one. Just so you know, can is a verb. It is poder in Spanish. So is there anyone that can help me? Now, an interesting thing I want you to remember is that is there or there is, that is actually a word. It's I. I means there is or there are. So remember, when you're asking a question in Spanish, open up with the upside down question mark. It's important not to forget that. Is there anyone? Hay alguien que pueda, not puede, because we have to use the subjunctive. Hay alguien, and there's supposed to be a U here, please excuse that. Hay alguien que pueda. Help me is just ayudar, and then you just attach the me to the end. Hay alguien que pueda ayudarme. Is there anyone that can help me? Okay, and so, like I said, the verb that's expressing the desire is over here, and so it's an indicative, but the verb that would fulfill the desire, someone being able to help me, that is going to be in subjunctive. And so you might ask yourself, we just went over a lot of examples. Is there really a formula that I can jot down in my mind that will help me know when I need the subjunctive for a desire? Yes, there is. And this is the formula right here. This is very important to understand. You have your indicative desire verb plus K plus the subjunctive fulfillment verb. And so these are some typical phrases that will end up in you using the subjunctive. Preferir plus que plus verb, which means to prefer that. And then your verb over here is usually in the subjunctive. Like if I say, I prefer that you write, the you write would be a subjunctive verb because I expect you to write. I don't know for sure if it's happening right now. Desear plus que plus subjunctive verb. I desire that you write. That one's pretty straightforward because it's the word desire. I want you to write. Querer plus que plus verb. I would say quiero que escribas. Now, one thing to note about querer plus que plus verb is that this is another figure of speech. In Spanish, you do not say I want you to write. You would say something like I want that you write. Or we want that he doesn't come. You get the idea. Your que is extremely important. It is not I want and then you write. It's not quiero escribas. It's quiero que escribas. You say I want that you write. So even when you're using the verb want, always remember to put the that. Insistir plus que plus subjunctive verb. I insist in that you do something. Okay, so it's always these verbs right here are always in the indicative, followed by a K, and then someone else over here doing the fulfillment verb, their fulfilling of that verb is subjunctive because they haven't actually fulfilled it yet. Then finally, there's esperar plus que plus verb, like I hope that he does something. What he does is going to be in the subjunctive. So when you see this S-U-B-J, that's just subjunctive. It's not subject. It is subjunctive verb. And there are other phrases that follow this formula that are not even up here. But once you pretty much learn what these words mean, then you will understand that all these verbs pretty much mean the same thing. They're expressing something you want to happen. But when you say, I want someone else to do something, that someone else actually doing it is going to be in the subjunctive. Now let's move on to doubt. Doubt follows a very similar pattern as desire when using the subjunctive to talk about things that are either uncertain or expected. The doubting verb is real, and so for the verb that expresses the doubt, it's indicative. It's just the regular form of the verb. Why is that? Because you really do have a doubt. Like if I said, I doubt that he swims. The verb doubt there is going to be in your regular present tense, your regular indicative forms, simply because I really do have that doubt. That doubt is a known fact. That doubt is something that's actually happening. But the verb that I am doubting, or the doubted verb, is subjunctive because it's uncertain. Like if I were to say, going back to the example, I doubt that he swims, okay? My doubt is real, but whether or not he swims is unknown. And because it is unknown whether or not he swims, then the verb he swims would be in the subjunctive because it's uncertain. Now, how about this one? I doubt that he talks to her. Do we have a doubting verb, a verb there that expresses doubt? Absolutely. It's quite simple. We just have the word doubt right there. Now, what verb am I doubting? What is the verb that is being doubted here? Talks. Pretty straightforward, right? So my doubt is something that is real, that is actually happening right now. So I would just use the regular old conjugation to translate that. I would just say, dudo que. Now he talks. That is what I am calling into question. I doubt that he talks. So because this verb is being doubted, it's in the realm of uncertain. That's why you use the subjunctive. You would just say, dudo que él hable, not habla. You would conjugate hable con ella. Okay? I doubt that he speaks with her or that he talks to her. Dudo que él hable con ella. And remember, you still have this K here for that. It's very important. How about this one? We doubt that they want to help us. Do we have a verb expressing doubt? This one's pretty simple too. We doubt. The word doubt there is the verb that is expressing doubt. But what verb are we doubting? We are doubting whether or not they want to help us, because want is a verb. And so this one is expressing uncertainty as well. And so you would say we doubt is just dudamos. We doubt that, the that being que. Dudamos que ellos. Now the want, they want, is going to be in subjunctive. So it's not quieren, it's quieran. Dudamos que ellos quieran ayudarnos. And remember, whenever you have an indirect object next to an infinitive, you always attach it to the end of the infinitive. Dudamos que ellos quieran ayudarnos. We doubt that they want to help us because we don't know for certain if they actually want to help us. So that's why we have to use the subjunctive. So those examples were pretty straightforward. Let's do a few more. They are not sure he knows the answer. Y'all don't believe what I say. She doesn't think he is mean. And it's doubtful that he wears ties. Now, none of these use the verb I doubt or you doubt. But even from all of that, can we still find the verb that is expressing the doubt? Yes, we can. When you're When you are not sure, that's expressing doubt. Is there a verb in here? Yes, are. So that is the verb part of the sentence, the part of the sentence that's expressing doubt. How about over here? Don't believe. So where is the verb in here? Believe. So that's going to be the verb that's expressing the doubt because you have the don't in front of it. Doesn't think. That is the part of the phrase expressing the doubt. Then we just find our verb. Same over here. It's doubtful. This one is kind of tricky. It's doubtful. Now, where is our verb? It's actually in the is, okay? Doubtful is an adjective, okay? But it is a contraction of it and is. Is will be your verb in the case of this sentence. So all of these are going to be translated in the indicative. Now we get to the other part of the sentence. Do we have a verb that is being called into question, a verb that is being doubted? Absolutely. They are not sure that he what? Knows the answer. This verb is what we are doubting. Y'all don't believe what I say. Say would be the verb that we are doubting here. She doesn't think that he is mean. Is would be the verb that we're calling into question here. And how about this one? It's doubtful that he wears ties. Wears would be the verb that is being called into question. So remember the rules. Your doubting verb is in the indicative, which is the regular old verb tense. Meanwhile, your doubted verb, your verb that is being questioned, is in the subjunctive. So I will give you a second to pause the video and translate these, and then we'll get back together. Okay, so I assume you have unpaused the video and we are ready to translate. They are not sure. This one would be pretty straightforward. It would be ellos no están seguros, remember because it's plural, que sepa, that is an irregular subjunctive conjugation of saber. Ellos no están seguros que sepa la respuesta. Okay? They are not sure that he knows the answer. Y'all don't believe what I say? Here we're going to mix it up. We're going to use the ustedes form instead of vosotros, which is what I like using. So it'd be ustedes no creen lo que diga. Okay? Not digo, diga. And lo que together means what? Like y'all don't believe that which I say. Literally this means that which I say. No creen lo que diga. Y'all don't believe that which I say. She doesn't think that he is mean. Ella no piensa que él es antipático. That's actually how you say mean. Antipático. Now, is that actually correct? No, it's not. I am testing to make sure that you are paying attention. You should know that es is the indicative form of the verb ser, which is to be. So you would not use that at all. This is indicative, but this is in the fulfillment part of the section. You would say sea. Sea is the subjunctive form of the verb ser. So yeah, I'm going to do a little of that sometimes just to make sure you stay on your toes. I did it to my students and it helped them learn. Now, it's doubtful that he wears ties. The part of the verb expressing the doubt is indicative. It would just be es dudoso que, meaning it is doubtful that, and you're expressing something that you don't know is true. He wears, that's the verb llevar, or llevar, if you say it with a more Latin American accent. It's doubtful that he wears ties. His wearing of ties is the verb that's being called into question here, so we would use the subjunctive. Es dudoso que él lleve corbatas. It's doubtful that he wears neckties or ties. So use the subjunctive for the verb that's being called into question. Now the doubt has a format for the subjunctive as well. All of these have a format, so once you get these formats down, it'll pretty much help you understand very thoroughly. Your doubting verb is in the indicative, then you have a que, then you have your subjunctive verb that was doubted. Okay? And these are some statements here that will help you understand the general pattern of what we're talking about. Es improbable que. It's improbable that. If you're saying it's improbable that, whatever verb you're talking about is going to be in the subjunctive, because the phrase it's unlikely or it's improbable is calling that verb into question. And remember, if you have a verb that you're calling into question or casting doubt over, you always use the subjunctive. It's doubtful that, which is es dudoso que. We already used that one. And that one's pretty clear why you would use the subjunctive for it, because the word dudoso comes from the verb dudar, which means to doubt. Dudar que, and then subjunctive verb like dudo que hables. I doubt that you talk. Okay? So when you have any conjugation of dudar, all of these verbs are going to be in the indicative. Then you'll have a que, and then you'll have your subjunctive verb afterwards. So I doubt that, he or she does something. No pensar que, which means to not think that. Now you would not literally just put no pensar que and then your subjunctive verb. You would have to conjugate all of these verbs according to who is doubting or who's not thinking, and then just put your subjunctive conjugation after the que. Okay? To not think that, like he doesn't think that, or she doesn't think that, or he doesn't believe that, no creer que, or the other one, no estar seguro que, to not be sure that. But you get the idea. These are all synonyms pretty much. They're all expressing doubt, or they're expressing that you think that something happening is unlikely. So anytime you have a verb construction that is expressing doubt or unlikeliness, usually the verb that you're calling into question is going to be in the subjunctive. So let's move on. We have an important note to make about doubts. Now, a lot of people might ask this question. If I say I believe he is eating, I don't know for sure that he's eating, so why isn't that in the realm of uncertainty? The answer is because it's something that you take as a fact. Because you take it as a fact, then you're going to treat it like a fact, and it's going to be conjugated regular or in the indicative. But something that you are definitely treating like it's not a fact, use the subjunctive. So the simple way to remember this, statements of disbelief are subjunctive, but statements of belief are indicative. I believe he is happy. That is a statement of belief. I think I can swim. That is also a statement of belief because it's something that you think is a fact. If it is a fact or you think it's a fact, just use the indicative. Just use the regular old conjugations that you already learned. But if you're treating it like it's not a fact, I don't believe he is happy, I don't think I can swim, then the verb that is being doubted is going to be in the subjunctive. So that's just an important note to make. A statement of disbelief is going to be in the subjunctive. What about if you said, I don't doubt that? If you say, like, I don't doubt that you tell me the truth. Because you have don't in front of the doubt, that means it's something that you're taking as fact. And because you're taking it as fact, it's going to be indicative. You won't have to worry about using the subjunctive in that kind of situation. So that's why this statement right here, they don't doubt what I say. Because they don't doubt it, that means they believe what I say. And because they believe what I say, it's a statement that is believed as fact. So this one would just be ellos creen lo que digo. All right? That one is just going to be conjugated in your regular verb tense. No need to bother with the subjunctive there because it's something that he believes as a fact. Now let's move on. You also use the subjunctive when you are giving advice. This one can be a little tricky, but once you get the hang of it, you'll find that it's actually pretty easy and you really don't have much to worry about here. The verb that is giving the advice is real, and so that verb is indicative. What do I mean by that? If I say, I advise you to stay, I really am in the act of giving you advice. I really am advising you to do something. I really am right now, I'm recommending you to do something. So the verb that describes that I am giving you advice, that's talking about something that's actually happening right now. So you would just use the indicative, you would just use the regular straightforward verb tense. There would be no problem whatsoever. However, the verb that follows the advice, the part of the verb that is what I expect you to do, what I want you to do, you're not actually doing that thing right now. And so I have to use the subjunctive to talk about it. So let's look at these examples here, and this will help you sort of flesh it out. When I say it's important that you study, we need to look at where are the two verbs in the sentence. The first one is the is that is implied in the it's, and the second one is study. These are our two verbs. One of these verbs is in the part of the sentence where I am actually giving out the advice, and the other verb is what you could do to follow my advice. So it's important that you study. This part right here, it's important. Well, it really is important. It's a fact. And so because that's in the realm of real, it's a fact, just use the indicative. It would just be es importante que, because que means that. Es importante que. It is important that. Now, you study. Are you actually studying right now, or do I want you to study? I want you to study. I expect you to study, but you're not actually studying right now. So the part of the verb that conveys expectation is going to go in the subjunctive. So it would be es importante que estudies. It would not be estudias because you're not actually studying right now. It's what I expect you to do. Same here. It's better that he studies a lot. Again, this is the verb here, and this is the other verb here. I expect him to study a lot, but he's not actually doing it right now. So this one is just es mejor que estudie mucho. Okay? So estudie being my subjunctive conjugation of the verb estudiar. So you get the idea. The verb that I use to tell you what to do, that verb is going to be in the indicative because I really am telling you what I want you to do. But the verb of what I expect you to do, because you're not actually doing it right now, use the subjunctive. Here are a few more examples. It would be best that we don't come. Again, it would be best. That's a fact. So this part of the sentence is a fact. So how would I translate that? Sería. Okay? And that is from your conditional tenses. And if you need to study that, you should review it. Sería mejor, it would be best, that we don't come. It would be best that we don't come. So now I'm talking about what I expect us to do. Are we actually coming or not coming yet? No, we haven't decided yet. So sería mejor que no vengamos. Okay? They suggest that I arrive at noon. They suggest that I arrive at noon. They really are making a suggestion. So the verb for suggest is in the indicative, but I haven't arrived yet. They expect me to arrive. So the part of the verb, what they expect me to do, is going to be in the subjunctive. So this would just be sugieren, from the verb sugerir, to suggest. Sugieren que yo llegué al mediodía. Mediodía means noon or means midday. Okay, so you see how the verb for what they expect me to do, I haven't done it yet, so I have to use the subjunctive. My advice is that you don't eat the bear. Now, I really am giving you advice, so the verb for my advice is going to be indicative, but what am I expecting you to do or not do? Eat. And so it would just be mi consejo, which is the word for advice, es que no comes el oso. Is that right? No, it's not. Why? Because this is the regular conjugation of comer. See? Trying to keep you on your toes. It would be no comas. Okay? Mi consejo es que no comas el oso. My advice is that you don't eat the bear. Because I heard from one of my former friends that bear's really stringy. And who wants to eat stringy meat? Ugh. Now, even for the advice, there's a formula that you follow. There's your indicative advice verb. Remember the part of the verb that's giving you the advice? Then a que, which is I say that, and then your subjunctive verb. Such as, it's important that you, well, the thing I expect you to do is going to be in subjunctive. It is best that you, the thing I expect you to do is going to be in the subjunctive. It is better, or it would be better, that you, or that I, or that he, or that she, or it is necessary that, or it is time that, es hora can also mean time, es hora that it is time for you to aconsejar que, which means to aconsejar means to advise. Like if I say aconsejo que comas ahora, I advise that you eat now. Or sugerir que, I suggest that. So when you see some kind of indicative advice verb and then a que, you should automatically know that whatever is coming next, that verb is in the subjunctive. So there are other verbs in the Spanish language that are used to give advice, but these are the most common, and you should write these down and commit them to memory. It's very important. Now let's move on. Now we get to the last scenario in which in Spanish the subjunctive is used to convey an uncertainty or an expectation. And that is when you're talking about plans for the future. So the verb that expresses your intention is real. You really do want to do something. So the verb that is talking about what you want to do is going to be indicative. It's just your regular conjugation because you're talking about something you actually want to do. But the verb that fulfills that want, or the verb that would satisfy that plan, or the verb that would make your plan happen, it hasn't happened yet. So that fulfilling verb is in the realm of expectation, and that's why you use the subjunctive for it. And let's give some examples here. I will call her as soon as she arrives at her home. Now you have a few verbs here. You have will call, and then you have she arrives. Now, I really will call her. That's a fact. I'm stating what I really am going to do. I really will call her. So that part is going to be in the indicative. That would just be voy a llamarla. The la being the direct object meaning her. As soon as, tan pronto como. I will call her as soon as she arrives at her home. Has she arrived yet, or do I expect her to arrive? Exactly, I expect her to arrive. So that would be voy a llamarla tan pronto como llegue a su casa. I will call her as soon as she arrives at her home. This is in the infinitive, this is in the indicative, and this is in the subjunctive. Why? Because as soon as is a statement of expressing that it's a plan. Okay, she hasn't actually arrived yet, but I expect her to. I will live in such a way that glorifies God. Okay, will live, that verb construction is talking, I really will live that way. It's a fact. But what do I expect my lifestyle to do? I expect my lifestyle to glorify God. And so this is an expectation. Because that's an expectation, it's going to be in the subjunctive. So this would just be voy a vivir in such a way that there actually is a phrase for that. De modo que, which literally means of the mode that. I will live of the mode that glorifies God. Que, this is in the subjunctive. Glorifique a Dios. Voy a vivir de modo que glorifique a Dios. This is what I plan to do. This is how I expect myself to live. So let's do a few more examples, okay? We will talk to him as long as he is here. Now, we actually will talk, okay? We actually are going to do that. So that's in the realm of fact. Vamos a hablar con él as long as. There is an expression to say as long as also. It's con tal de que. It means as long as, or provided that. As long as he is here. Now, we expect him to be here. He could get up and leave, but we expect him to be here. Con tal de que esté aquí. Vamos a hablar con él con tal de que esté aquí. Provided that, or as long as he is here. He will think before he speaks. He really will think. But then, has he spoken yet, or do we expect him to speak? Well, he hasn't spoken yet, so we expect him to speak. So the part that's expressing the fulfillment of the plan or the expectation, that expectation verb is going to be in the subjunctive. He will think. You know what? Let's mix this up a little bit, and we're not going to use ir plus a plus verb for this one. We're actually going to use the conjugation of future tense. So this would be pensará. Future tense. Pensará antes de que he speaks. That's subjunctive. Hable. He will think before he speaks. So you're talking about what he plans to do in the future. We will study so that we get good grades. How about this one? Okay. So we actually will study. That's a fact. Have we gotten the good grades yet? No, but we expect to get them. So the fact verb is in the indicative, and the expected verb is going to be in the subjunctive. So this would just be estudiaremos. Again, we're mixing it up, and we're going to go into the future tense. So that, that's just para que. Or para que means so that, or for the purpose that. How about we get? So we're talking about what we're going to do. Para que saquemos buenas notas. Okay? Estudiaremos para que saquemos buenas notas. We will study so that we get good grades. He will write the essay unless his brother writes it. He really does intend to write it. So his intention is real. So the verb that's expressing his intent is going to be indicative. It's just going to be va a escribir the essay, el ensayo, a menos que, that's how you say unless, a menos que, how do you say his brother? Su hermano, unless his brother writes it, a menos que su hermano lo escriba. Okay? because his brother hasn't actually written it, but we expect his brother to write it. So because that verb is in the realm of expectation, that verb will be in the subjunctive, whereas the verb of his intention is going to be in the indicative. So the shorthand way to remember this is when you're talking about plans, the intention is real, but the fulfillment is not. So for the intention, use the regular indicative. For the fulfillment, use the subjunctive. And guess what? There's a formula for this one as well. It's usually going to go like this. You'll have some sort of indicative verb expressing intent, then a planning phrase, and then after that planning phrase is going to come your subjunctive verb. So what do I mean by a planning phrase? A phrase that expresses some kind of plan in the future, like tan pronto como, as soon as. Okay? As soon as implies that that thing hasn't actually happened yet, but as soon as it happens, you're going to do this or do that. So as soon as is a planning phrase because it expresses an intention. Or con tal de que, provided that. Provided that you help me, I will help you back. Now, provided that says that whatever's coming next hasn't happened yet. It's an expectation. De modo que, in such a way that. I plan to do this in such a way that it does that. So your result hasn't happened yet, but you plan for it. So because it's something you anticipate happening, use the subjunctive. Antes de que and después de que. These mean before and after. However, this is different from antes que and después que. Antes de que, putting the de in the middle, shows that it's like you're giving instructions. Before you do this, you must do that. Or before I eat, I'm going to study. Now, I haven't actually eaten yet, but I expect to eat. So these put it in the realm of expectation. Or I will help you after you help me. You haven't actually helped me yet, but I expect you to help me. So the verb for you helping me is going to be in the subjunctive because it's what I expect you to do. Para que, in order that, or for the purpose that. We already went over an example of that. A menos que, unless. Unless he signs it, I won't send it. He hasn't actually signed it yet, but I expect him to sign it. And that's why I said unless. So that's why him signing it is going to be in the subjunctive because it's an expectation. Or a fin de que. A fin de que basically means with the intent that or with the result that. Like, we will study for the result that we get good grades. So this one and para que are basically synonymous. So don't worry about that too much. But that's basically when you see a planning phrase like this, so commit these to memory as well. Usually the verb that comes after is going to be in the subjunctive. So that's a good way to remember that. Now we cover something that's interesting. You remember how this whole entire lesson I have been telling you that the subjunctive is used to express uncertainties and expectations? Did you know that there are times when the subjunctive can be used to express a real event, something that actually is happening or continues to happen? And it's only two exceptions, so don't be too bothered. And that is criticism and influence. We have to talk about each of these as well, wrapping up here. When you're criticizing someone, whether or not you're giving them positive criticism or negative criticism, doesn't matter the value of the criticism itself, whether it's positive or negative. The verb that you're using to make your criticism is indicative because your criticism is real. You actually are criticizing that person. But the verb that you are criticizing is going to be in the subjunctive. So let's give some examples here. It is terrible that you drink soda. I am criticizing what you do. I am saying it is terrible what you do. Now the it is terrible, that is my criticism. It actually is terrible. That's a fact. So you would just say es terrible que. Pretty simple. No trick there. It's terrible that you drink soda. Now, this is the verb that I am criticizing. So this verb is going to be in the subjunctive. Es terrible que bebas el refresco. Now, I personally don't drink soda. I drink juice, water, and milk. But you get the idea of what I'm saying. This is a time where the subjunctive is actually referring to something that really is happening. And it's terrible that you drink soda. The verb that I am criticizing is going to be in the subjunctive, and the verb that I use to create my criticism is going to be in the indicative. It's great that he doesn't lie. The verb lie is going to be in the subjunctive because I'm criticizing it. Now, this one's a positive criticism. I'm saying it's great, but either way, positive or negative, if you're criticizing an action, the action that you criticize is going to be in the subjunctive. So it would just be es excelente que él no mienta. Okay, coming from the verb mentir, to lie. It's great that he doesn't lie, or it's excellent that he doesn't lie. You could just say es bueno que. I just chose to be cool and put excelente there. But you get the idea. It's good that he doesn't lie. This is a positive criticism, but still, the verb that's being criticized is going to go in the subjunctive. It delights me that you sing. It really does delight me, but the verb that I'm using to create my criticism is delight. The verb that I'm criticizing, again, it's positive criticism, but like I said, it doesn't matter, is going to be sing. So this is just me encanta que, then cantar would be in the subjunctive, cantes. So really the only thing you need to remember for these is that the verb that is being criticized is the only verb that's going to go in the subjunctive. She fears that they don't listen. Ella teme que no escuchen. Okay? Because the verb listen is the verb that's being criticized. This is actually a negative criticism. I fear that you don't listen. Now, the fact that you don't listen makes me feel afraid. So this is a negative criticism. She fears that they don't listen. Escuchar is in the subjunctive. I like that you cook well. This one's positive criticism, but again, because this verb is being criticized, it has to go in the subjunctive. So it's just me gusta que cocines bien. Okay? Cocines being the subjunctive for cocinar, which means to cook. It annoys me that she speaks so quickly. How do I conjugate that? It really does annoy me. It's just me molesta que ella habla tan, which means so, rápidamente. Okay? Is that correct? See? Did it again just to keep you on your toes. No, it would not be hablar, it would be hable, right? Remember, because the verb that is being criticized is going in the subjunctive. It annoys me that she speaks so quickly. So you got to stay on your toes and remember that. When you're giving a criticism, be it positive or negative, it does not matter. The verb that is being criticized is going to go in the subjunctive. And so this is just a list of criticizing phrases that you can use where a subjunctive criticized verb is going to follow. So the general formula is you make your regular criticism in the indicative, then you have a K, then you have a subjunctive verb that is being criticized. It's good that, or it's bad that, or I like that, or I don't like that. To fear that, or me alegro de que means I am elated that, or me encanta que I am delighted that, or es increíble que it's incredible that, or it's unbelievable that. So all of these are criticisms. Some are positive, like me gusta. Some are negative, like no me gusta. But negative or positive, you have your criticizing phrase, then you have a K, then the verb that you're criticizing is going to be in the subjunctive. Pretty straightforward. That one should only take you a couple days to memorize. And now we get into the final exception for the whole indicative is things happening now and subjunctive is expectations and uncertainties. This is the final example where the subjunctive can be used to talk about something that actually does happen. So when you're in an influence situation, this is a shorthand way to remember it. Just understand this, and it will help you be able to decipher when you use indicative or subjunctive. The boss verb in the sentence is going to be indicative, and the servant verb is going to be subjunctive. So remember, boss indicative, servant subjunctive. Now, what exactly is a boss verb and a servant verb? Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that one person is like the boss and the other person's an employee, or one person's a parent and the other person's a kid. I don't mean that in real life that these people have a boss and servant relationship. I just mean that in this particular sentence, one person is in charge of the actions of another. So any sentence where a person is directing the actions of another or influencing the actions of another, the verb that the influenced person is doing is going to be in the subjunctive. Take this, for example. We make him do his homework. Who's the boss in this sentence? We are, because we are the ones who decides whether or not he does his homework. Who is the servant or the person who is being bossed around? He is. So whatever verb the boss is doing is going to be indicative. Whatever verb the servant is doing is going to be in the subjunctive. So we make him do his homework. Well, what is he doing? He's doing his homework, and the verb do is going to be the verb that's attached to the servant or the person who's being told what to do. So this is just hacemos, which is we make, it's just regular. Hacemos que él haga su tarea, okay? We make that he does his homework. So do you see how we are clearly in charge of him in this sentence? And so whatever he does, because he's the servant, that's going to be in the subjunctive, okay? I insist that y'all eat it. Well, who's in charge here? I am, because I'm the one who insists, okay? And you guys are going to do what I say. So whatever verb you guys are doing, that is the servant verb. It's subjunctive, and that's going to be eat. And we're actually going to use the vosotros form here. So when I say I insist that y'all eat, insisto, okay, that's an I, insisto en que, I insist in that it lo comáis, okay? I insist that y'all eat it, okay? Remember, comer is going to go in the subjunctive. Remember, this is the vosotros form of subjunctive comer. And vosotros just means y'all, informal, all right? And you should have already known that from my free sample. But I insist that y'all eat it. Y'all are the ones who are doing what I say. And because y'all are the servant in the sentence, servant subjunctive. How about this one? He forbids us to lie. Who's in charge in the sentence? He is. And who is doing what he says? We are. So we are the servant in the sentence. So servant uses subjunctive. What verb are we doing in the sentence? Lie. That is the verb that is attached to the us. And so his verb is going to be in the indicative. That's just going to be él prohíbe que mintamos. Okay? Mentir is going to go in the subjunctive here. So remember, the servant verb is subjunctive. They permit you to stay. Who's in charge? Who's influencing the sentence? They are. So because they are in charge, their verb is just indicative. It's just permiten que, they permit that you stay. Permiten que quedes. Okay? Quedar means to stay. Remember, servant verb subjunctive. They're doing what you say. So because this you is the servant in the sentence, you are going, whatever you do is going to be in the subjunctive. And so on and so forth. You guys get the examples here. We order you to stop. Mandamos que. And then we order you to stop. Se pare. We're using the usted conjugation. here, which means you formal. Okay, I don't know why I put that accent mark there. It's just usted. We order you to stop. Mandamos que se pare. All right. So who's in charge in a sense? We are. And who is being influenced? You are. So whatever you, the servant, or you, the subservient person in the sentence is doing is going to be subjunctive. Y'all never allow me to talk. Who is in charge in the sentence? You are. See, you never allow me to talk. Okay, because you are in charge, your verb is just going to be indicative. Nunca permite, you never permit or you never allow. Nunca permite que yo hable. Now another synonym for permitir is dejar que. You could say nunca deja que. Deja que means to, and let me actually make sure you can see that. Deja que means to allow that. You could say you never allow that I talk. Okay? And so these are just alternative expressions you can use. You never allow that I talk. Or you could say you never permit that I talk. Doesn't matter. They both mean the exact same thing. Now typically your formula here is going to be your indicative boss verb plus K plus your subjunctive verb, which we already figured out. But here are some common verbs that are used when one person is influencing the actions of another. Insistir en que, one insists that. Hacer que, one makes that, like he makes me study, I make him read. Prohibir que, to prohibit that. Dejar que, to allow that. Permitir que, we already talked about that one, to permit that, or mandar que, to order that, or to mandate that. So usually when you say like, I insist that you, or he makes me do something, or I forbid you, or you allow me, or she permits him, or we order y'all to do something, whenever the verbs like this are used and one person is allowing or making or stopping someone else from doing something, the person who is being allowed or forced to do something or stopped, that person is the servant in the sentence, and servant subjunctive. Now, there's an important note. This is the reason why in most of your command forms in Spanish, you use the subjunctive. Like, talk to me now would be hábleme, okay? Hable being the usted subjunctive form. Okay, hábleme, and talk to me now, hábleme ahora, all right? So the subjunctive is used in most of your command forms in Spanish, but that's another lesson as well. So now that you all have gotten the hang of this, and that was a lot to digest, I want you to copy these questions down, and we will identify whether or not this is an indicative or subjunctive statement, and then we will translate it. So you have, I want a salad. She will make her children study. Then we have more. I don't believe that you buy turtles. It would be best if you don't go to the evil party. They will permit it. We will lose unless you help us. I want to help you. I want you to help me. And I think that they are here. So I want you to pause after writing all of those down and actually take some time and think about them. Work on them and ask yourself, is this an indicative statement or a subjunctive statement? And then translate it. So take a few minutes to work on that now. Okay, I assume you've unpaused the video and we're going to work on these now. This first one, I want a salad. Though this is a desire statement, it does not follow the format, the desire verb plus K plus the subjunctive verb. It's just the ordinary desire. So this is just going to be indicative. And it's just, quiero una ensalada. Pretty straightforward. How about this one? She will make her children study. Now, her children studying, do we have a subjunctive statement here? Yes, we do. Why? Because when you make someone else do something, that's an influence situation. So the boss is going to use an indicative verb, and the servant is going to use subjunctive. So ella va a hacer que sus hijos estudien. Okay? Because whatever the person who's being bossed around does, that's going to be in the subjunctive. Now let's move on. I don't believe that you buy turtles. Is this a subjunctive situation? You better believe it is. It's a subjunctive situation because you're expressing doubt. Okay? So the verb used to make the doubt is indicative. So I don't believe. No creo que. What am I doubting? I'm doubting whether or not you buy turtles. So the verb being doubted is in the subjunctive. No creo que compres las tortugas. Okay? I don't believe you're buying turtles. You're lying. It would be best if you don't go to the evil party. Is this indicative or subjunctive? It is subjunctive. You better believe it. Why? Because when I say it would be best, what am I doing? I'm giving you advice. And so it would be best is just sería mejor que. It would be best if, or it would be best that you don't go to the evil party. Sería mejor que no, this is supposed to be a V, no vayas a la fiesta mala. Okay, or malvada, doesn't matter. It would be best if you don't go to the evil party. So remember, the verb that is fulfilling the advice, the verb that you would do to fulfill my advice, would be in the subjunctive. They will permit it. Is this an indicative statement or a subjunctive statement? It's indicative. How do we know that? Because although you have the verb permitir here, you don't really have the format, the influence verb plus que plus the servant verb. There's no servant verb here. There's just the influence verb hanging out by itself. So it's just a fact. So this is just van a permitirlo. Okay? Remember, you put your indirect object at the end of an indicative, of an infinitive when it's just hanging out there. How about number 6? We will lose unless you help us. Is this an indicative or subjunctive statement? Well, this is a future plan or an anticipation. Have you actually helped us yet? No, you haven't. It's what we expect you to do. So because that's an expectation, that part is going to be in subjunctive. So it will be vamos a perder a menos que nos ayudes. Okay? Ayudar being in the subjunctive because it is something that I expect you to do that you haven't actually done yet. Now let's move on. I want to help you. Is this an indicative phrase or is this a subjunctive phrase? This one is actually indicative. Now you might be confused. You might be thinking, well, can you explain to me why it's expressing a desire, so why is there no subjunctive here? Why? Because the you in the sentence isn't actually doing anything. The want and help are all referring to me. And remember, what is the format for the subjunctive for desire? It's a desire verb plus K plus the subjunctive fulfillment verb. Do we have a K in this sentence anywhere? No, we don't. And that's how we know that it's not a subjunctive statement. It's just quiero ayudarte. And remember, when you have your indirect object just floating next to an infinitive, you always attach them. Quiero ayudarte. I want to help you. Now, how about this one? I want you to help me. Is this indicative or subjunctive? It's subjunctive. Why? Because you have your desire verb, then you have K, and then you have your fulfillment verb. That is subjunctive format all the way. So this would be quiero que me ayudes. Okay? Quiero que me ayudes. I want that you help me. So your verb that would fulfill the desire is going to go in the subjunctive. Now, how about I think they are here? Does this come with any sort of, does I think they are here come with any sort of subjunctive in it? No. Why? Because you think they're here. You take it as fact. So that one's pretty simple. Pienso que están aquí. Okay? Pienso que están aquí. You think they're here. You take it as fact. So that's just a few exercises. There are far more that you can do, but I really recommend that you spend a couple of weeks practicing this, and you should be able to tell the difference between when you use the indicative and the subjunctive. Go back and study each of those situations I posed to you, and this will all become clear. But in the meantime, here is a brief recap of everything we just went over, and this will hopefully help you to put it all in perspective. So, you use the indicative to express a known fact or a believed fact. You do not use the indicative to express expectations and uncertainties. You can use the subjunctive to talk about known facts and believed facts, but that's only when you're giving criticism or when you're talking about one person influencing the actions of another. Those are the only times when the subjunctive is used to talk about a fact. But the subjunctive is mostly used to talk about expectations and uncertainties, especially when you're expressing desire, doubt, advice, or future plans. Okay? And I know I said I hate acronyms, but if you really want to make it easy for yourself, if you play video games, you'll know that you can rearrange these and spell the word D-pad, which, on a PlayStation, anyone who's ever owned one would know what that is. And that might actually help you if you have to have an acronym. But I think that if you practice this system, you should be able to understand the subjunctive. All right, get out there and practice. Aprendamos Español.